Ethan's boots crunched against the scorched earth, each step heavy with the weight of silence that stretched across the burned-out valley. Smoke lingered in the cold night air, curling in ghostly patterns around the remnants of shattered buildings. The village had once been alive, full of laughter and voices, but now it was nothing more than ash and ruin. Ethan's eyes scanned the area, alert, trained to notice even the slightest movement. His hand rested on the hilt of his plasma knife, a tool that had saved him more times than he cared to count. The fire had burned itself out, leaving blackened beams and smoldering patches scattered across the ground. The smell of smoke and charred metal stung his nose, and Ethan pulled his scarf higher to keep it out. It was quiet, too quiet. The alien world he'd come to explore was unpredictable, but this silence carried a weight that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He moved cautiously, every sense stretched to its limit until he heard it, a faint, uneven breathing coming from the wreckage near what had once been the town square. Ethan froze, his instincts kicking in. The sound was weak, strained, but it was there. Someone or something was alive. He approached slowly, ducking behind the remains of a fallen wall, eyes scanning for movement. The heat from a lingering ember warmed his face, a stark reminder of the destruction that had come before him. He peered closer and saw it, a creature curled into a ball, half-burned, its limbs twisted unnaturally, its skin blackened and blistered. Ethan's heart skipped a beat, a mixture of fear and compassion filling him. The creature's chest heaved as it struggled to breathe. Its eyes, barely open, glimmered with a strange, intelligent light. He had seen many alien creatures during his missions, but nothing like this. It looked like a nightmare given flesh, yet somehow, in its weakened state, it seemed almost human. "Hey," he whispered, his voice gentle but firm. "I'm here, you're safe now." The creature twitched at his words, a low groan escaping its lips. Its sharp teeth glinted in the faint light, but there was no attack. Ethan took a deep breath and made a decision. He would not leave it here to die. Carefully, he approached and knelt beside it, assessing its injuries. The burns were severe, some of its limbs were badly mangled. He tore a strip from his cloak and pressed it gently against the worst of the burns, trying to soothe the pain. The creature hissed but did not resist. Ethan worked quickly, using everything he had in his limited medical kit. He applied antiseptic, bandaged the worst wounds, and murmured words of comfort all the while. It was a delicate balance. Any sudden move could provoke an attack, but leaving it to suffer would go against every instinct he had. Slowly, carefully, he lifted it, dragging it away from the still warm embers and into a nearby cave he had spotted earlier. The cave smelled of damp earth and minerals, a stark contrast to the charred air outside. Ethan set the creature down gently and lit a small lamp. The flickering light revealed more of its features. Its body was long and thin, with a strange, almost skeletal grace. Its hands were clawed, and the skin, where it hadn't been burned, was a pale gray that seemed to shimmer in the lamp's glow. Ethan studied it for a long moment, trying to understand what he had saved. "You're going to be okay," he said softly. "Just rest." The creature made a low sound, almost like a sigh, and closed its eyes. Ethan didn't know if it was understanding him, but the gesture felt almost human. He settled beside it, keeping watch. The night outside stretched on, filled with distant howls of alien predators. Ethan knew they could smell the movement, the heat, the faint pulse of life that the creature emitted. If they found it, it would be torn apart in seconds. Hours passed. Ethan kept his hand lightly on the creature's arm, monitoring its breathing, adjusting the bandages when needed. The creature groaned from time to time, a sound that mixed pain with something else, curiosity, perhaps, or confusion. Ethan spoke to it, telling it his name, asking it questions he didn't expect answers to. And yet, it responded in ways he could not understand. Low noises, almost attempts at mimicry, as though it was listening and learning. Outside, the wind picked up, whistling through the jagged rocks and carrying the scent of smoke far into the distance. Ethan's mind raced. He could not leave the creature here. If he returned to the colony, they would want to study it, dissect it, or worse. He had no idea what it was, but he felt a strange bond forming, a need to protect it that went beyond duty. By the early hours of morning, Ethan felt exhaustion tugging at his limbs. His eyes burned, his body ached, but he couldn't sleep. He watched as the creature stirred. Something was changing. Its body, once grotesque and twisted from burns, was beginning to shift. The skin softened, the limbs straightened, and the strange, alien features started to resemble something familiar, almost human. Ethan rubbed his eyes, thinking it was a trick of the dim light, but the change continued. The creature opened its eyes fully, and for the first time Ethan saw them clearly. They were a deep, intelligent brown, filled with curiosity and awareness. And then, impossibly, it spoke. "Ethan." The single word cut through the cave like a blade. Ethan froze, staring at it in disbelief. His heart raced. The creature, this being he had dragged from the fire, this alien nightmare, knew his name. He blinked, unsure if he was dreaming. I don't understand," he said, voice shaking. You know me." The creature tilted its head, studying him, and repeated the name softly, almost reverently. There was no fear in its eyes, only recognition, as if it had been waiting for him. Ethan's mind spun. How could this be? He had never seen anything like this, never heard of a creature that could survive such injuries and then speak a human name. Despite his confusion, he felt a strange relief. The creature was alive, aware, and somehow connected to him. He reached out slowly, letting his fingers brush against its arm. It flinched slightly but did not pull away. Instead, it leaned into his touch, as if acknowledging his presence and his protection. Ethan spoke again, his voice firmer now, though still tinged with awe. "I don't know who you are or what you are, but I'm going to keep you safe. Do you understand?" The creature made a sound that Ethan interpreted as a scent. Its lips moved, forming shapes that almost sounded like words, but not quite. Ethan realized it was learning, forming the sounds, trying to communicate. He smiled despite himself. He had faced countless dangers in his life, alien predators, deadly landscapes, hostile planets, but nothing had prepared him for this. Nothing had demanded the kind of patience, compassion, and courage that this creature required. The first rays of sunlight began to filter through the cave entrance, casting long shadows across the floor. The smoke from the village below still lingered in the air, a reminder of the destruction and death that had come before. Ethan looked down at the creature, whose form now appeared almost entirely human. Its eyes followed his every move, studying him, learning him. For the first time in days, Ethan allowed himself a small moment of hope. The creature was alive, and it was aware. Whatever it had been before, whatever alien experiments or genetic tampering had created it, it was now something new, a being capable of thought, emotion, and perhaps even loyalty. And somehow, inexplicably, it had chosen him. Ethan knew the day would bring new challenges. The alien predators were still out there, and the creature was vulnerable despite its sudden transformation. He would need to find food, water, and shelter, and he would need to keep them both alive until he could understand the true nature of this being. But for now, he allowed himself a single, rare smile. He had saved a life, and in return, that life had recognized him. The creature looked up at him again, and Ethan felt the weight of that recognition. It was more than just a name, it was an understanding, a bond forming in the quiet hours of a burned-out world. He whispered back, "We'll get through this, together." And for the first time since arriving on this hostile planet, Ethan felt that maybe, just maybe, they would. By mid-morning, the cave was bathed in a soft, golden light. Ethan had gathered small sticks and dry leaves to create a fire, careful not to make it too large or smoky. The creature watched him closely, its glowing brown eyes following every motion. It sat upright now, its limbs straightened, skin smooth and almost human in appearance, though faint scars and burn marks still remained. Its breathing was steady, its chest rising and falling with a calm rhythm, yet there was an alertness in its gaze that told Ethan it was learning, observing, and remembering. "You have to eat something," Ethan said gently, breaking the silence. "You need energy." He tore a piece of dried meat from his pack and held it out. The creature stared at it, head tilting, then reached forward with surprisingly steady hands. It took the food slowly, examining it before placing it in its mouth. The way it chewed was careful, almost deliberate, as if it had never eaten in this manner before. Ethan's heart ached a little at the thought that this being, so intelligent and aware now, had endured such suffering. "You're stronger than you look," Ethan said, smiling faintly. "And smarter, too." The creature's eyes met his, and for a moment there was a strange connection, something beyond words. Then it tilted its head and made a soft sound, an attempt to mimic speech. "Then," it said. The pronunciation was rough, broken, but unmistakable. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. It had spoken his name again, this time trying to form the sound correctly. "Yes," he said slowly. "Ethan, that's me." He repeated his name, emphasizing the syllables. The creature repeated after him, improving slightly with each attempt. A sense of awe settled over him. This was no ordinary alien. It was intelligent, capable of learning quickly, and somehow it had recognized him, remembered him, and was trying to communicate. But the moment of calm did not last. From outside the cave came a faint, low hum, a vibration that Ethan felt through the ground. His eyes narrowed. Alien scouts. They were searching. The creature froze, ears twitching as if it could hear the subtle changes in the wind and ground. Ethan's mind raced. He could not let them find this being. Not now, not ever. "We have to move," he whispered. The creature looked at him, understanding in its gaze. There was no fear, only trust. That trust anchored him. He gathered his small pack, took the creature's hand, and led it down a narrow path that wound away from the village. They moved carefully, silently, sticking to shadows and rocky overhangs. The creature's movements were cautious but fluid, almost human in grace, yet there was an alien precision in the way it observed every detail. As they walked, Ethan spoke softly. "I don't know where you came from or what they did to you, but I promise I won't let them hurt you." The creature looked up at him, eyes wide, absorbing his words in a way that made Ethan shiver. It wasn't just hearing him, it was understanding, responding with attention and curiosity. Hours passed and the landscape shifted. What had once been scorched wasteland now gave way to strange forests of towering, crystalline trees that shimmered in the sunlight. The ground was uneven, dotted with glowing fungi and sharp rocks. The creature paused occasionally, touching a tree trunk or crouching to study a strange plant. Ethan watched it, fascinated. It was learning, adapting, and absorbing knowledge like a sponge. He realized the alien experiments that had created it had not only given it survival instincts, but also the ability to learn faster than any human he had ever known. They stopped near a small stream, and Ethan motioned for the creature to drink. It lowered its head and sipped cautiously, then looked up at him as if asking whether it was acceptable. Ethan laughed softly. "Yes, it's safe." He watched as it studied the water, its hands dipping into the stream, splashing lightly, almost in play. There was innocence in its curiosity, a sharp contrast to the horrors it had endured. "You need a name," Ethan said after a while. The creature looked at him, head tilted. "I need name," it asked, the words halting but understandable. Ethan nodded. "Yes, everyone has a name. It helps people belong somewhere. Do you want a name?" The creature considered this, touching its chest, then pointing at Ethan. "Friend?" it asked. Ethan smiled, a warmth spreading through his chest. "Yes, friend is fine, but you'll have your own too. Something you can call yourself." The creature nodded, absorbing the concept, then repeated the word slowly, savoring it. "Friend." The sun climbed higher, and the day grew warmer. Ethan knew they could not stay in the open for long. Alien scouts could be anywhere, tracking by scent, sound, or even movement. He took the creature's hand again, leading it toward a hidden gorge he had noticed earlier. The gorge was narrow and deep, covered with overhangs and jagged rocks, a perfect place to hide. As they descended, Ethan noticed the creature moving with more confidence, adapting to the uneven terrain with a grace that amazed him. It was learning not just from him but from the environment itself. At the bottom of the gorge they found a small cave, partially concealed by hanging vines and rocks. Ethan set down his pack and gestured for the creature to rest. It sat down, eyes scanning the walls and floor, analyzing every detail. Ethan admired its intelligence. He had never seen a human, or anything resembling one, observe and process the world with such precision so quickly. Hours later, when Ethan prepared a small meal, the creature mimicked his actions. It took a small piece of dried meat, examined it, then carefully tore it into smaller portions. Ethan watched, fascinated. "You learn fast," he said. "Faster than anyone I've ever met." The creature looked at him, eyes shining, and made a sound that almost resembled laughter. It was a sound of understanding, of connection, and Ethan felt a pang of emotion he couldn't name. The first night in the gorge was tense. The alien scouts were still out there, and Ethan could sense them, though they did not know his exact location. He made a small fire, carefully contained, to keep them warm. The creature watched him, occasionally reaching out to touch the flame, then recoiling at the heat. Ethan spoke softly, telling it stories of Earth, of the human colonies, of people who had shown courage in impossible circumstances. The creature listened, head tilted, absorbing every word, repeating sounds, names, and phrases. By the time sleep finally claimed them, there was a strange bond between them, protector and dependent, teacher and learner, but also companions sharing a fragile trust. The following morning, the gorge was bathed in a soft mist. Ethan awoke to find the creature already awake, sitting near the small stream that trickled through the rocks. Its movements were precise, deliberate, almost human, yet there was an alien quality in its posture, in the way it observed everything around it. When it saw Ethan stirring, it spoke clearly this time. "Ethan, where go?" he smiled. "We need to move. They'll be looking for us." The creature nodded, understanding. Ethan felt a swell of pride mixed with concern. It was learning fast, but there were dangers he could not predict. Alien scouts were ruthless, and they would not stop until they recovered what they considered their property. The creature was more than property. It was a life, a being, and Ethan would fight to keep it safe. As they left the cave, the creature suddenly paused, tilting its head toward a distant ridge. "Shadows, moving," it said, pointing. Ethan's eyes followed its gesture, and he saw them, 3 alien figures moving cautiously along the ridge, scanning the area. They had found their trail. Ethan's heart pounded. He motioned for the creature to stay low, crouching behind rocks. "We have to be quiet," he whispered. The creature nodded, lowering itself to the ground, eyes fixed on him. Ethan felt a rush of gratitude. It trusted him, even in the face of danger. They moved carefully, using rocks and shadows as cover, inching away from the ridge. The alien scouts were close, but Ethan had a plan. He led the creature toward a narrow canyon, knowing the scouts would not be able to follow through without being exposed. The journey was tense, every step measured. The creature mirrored him, learning his techniques instinctively. Ethan realized that it was not just intelligent, it was adaptive, able to observe and imitate human behavior quickly. This was more than survival, it was evolution accelerated by necessity and trauma. By evening, they reached a hidden plateau overlooking a small valley. Ethan set down his pack, exhausted but relieved. The creature sat beside him, its glowing eyes scanning the terrain. For a moment they were silent, sharing a quiet victory. Ethan looked at the creature and smiled. "We made it for now. But tomorrow will bring more challenges." The creature nodded, touching his hand lightly, a gesture of understanding and trust. That night, under a sky filled with alien stars, Ethan felt something he had not felt in a long time: hope. They were alive together, and somehow, against impossible odds, they were learning to survive. The creature, once a burned, broken form, had become something extraordinary. It was human in ways Ethan could understand, yet still alien, mysterious, and full of surprises. As they settled down to rest, Ethan whispered softly, almost to himself, "We'll face whatever comes next together." The creature's hand brushed his, and for the first time, Ethan felt that the bond between them was more than necessity. It was trust, connection, and perhaps the beginning of something even greater. The morning mist hung low over the valley, curling around jagged rocks and alien flora. Ethan was already awake, scanning the horizon. The alien scouts had not given up. Their movements were faint but unmistakable, a low ripple across the distant ridge. He crouched beside the creature, who now moved with almost human precision. Its glowing brown eyes reflected a sharp awareness, and for the first time it seemed fully aware of the danger that surrounded them. "We have to be ready," Ethan whispered. "They'll come closer today. We can't let them see us." The creature nodded, repeating his words slowly, mimicking his tone. "Ready, close, no see." It was not just repetition anymore, it was comprehension, understanding the meaning behind each word. Ethan's heart warmed. In a single night, it had transformed from a scared, half-burned creature into something intelligent, capable, and aware. They moved carefully along a narrow ridge, staying low among jagged rocks. Ethan had taught it how to use the terrain to their advantage, how to observe and anticipate movement. The creature mirrored him perfectly, crouching, pausing, listening. Ethan realized it was learning not just through observation, but through instinct, developing strategies as a human would, but faster. Suddenly, the alien scouts appeared from the edge of the ridge, their metallic suits glinting in the sunlight. They were searching, scanning the valley for any sign of life. Ethan froze. One false move and they would see him and the creature. He held his breath, signaling for the creature to stay down. The scouts moved methodically, unaware that their target was only a few dozen feet away, hidden behind rocks and alien vegetation. Ethan's mind raced. He could not fight them head-on. They were too well-armed, too numerous. He needed a plan, and fast. He looked at the creature who was watching him, understanding the tension in his movements. Ethan whispered, "We can make it to the canyon. There's a narrow pass they can't follow through easily. Follow me exactly." The creature nodded, its eyes sharp and alert. They waited for a scout to move past their position. Then Ethan slid silently along the rocks, the creature following, step by step. The alien scouts were focused, but Ethan's careful timing kept them hidden. Every second was a battle of wits and patience. Finally, they reached the canyon entrance, a narrow passage that would allow them to hide or escape if pursued. Ethan motioned for the creature to crouch behind a large boulder. For a moment, they were still, watching the scouts move past the canyon's entrance. Ethan's chest pounded, but the creature remained calm, its presence reassuring. It had learned from him, adapted to danger, and now it seemed capable of independent thought. Ethan realized that the bond they shared was no longer just protector and dependent. It was a partnership. Suddenly, one scout paused, tilting its head toward their hiding place. Ethan's breath caught. He motioned for the creature to stay low. The scout raised its weapon, scanning the canyon. Ethan knew they had only seconds to act. He whispered, "Now." "Run!" They bolted down the canyon, weaving between rocks and overhangs, the scout firing behind them. Sparks flew as the alien's energy beam struck a nearby rock, narrowly missing them. The creature moved with incredible agility, faster than any human could manage, dodging obstacles and following Ethan's lead. They reached a narrow ledge overlooking a deep chasm. Ethan stopped, assessing the path ahead. The only way forward was a jump to a lower ledge, risky but possible. He turned to the creature. "We have to jump, trust me." The creature looked at him, then at the chasm, and nodded. "Trust," Ethan. Ethan went first, leaping carefully, landing on the lower ledge with a roll to absorb the impact. The creature followed, its movements precise, almost graceful as it made the jump. Ethan watched in awe. It was not just survival anymore. It was intelligence, courage, and adaptability combined in a being that was learning faster than he had ever imagined. They continued down the canyon, moving quickly but cautiously. Behind them, the alien scouts were relentless, but the narrow, twisting path slowed their pursuit. Ethan and the creature finally reached a hidden cavern, partially concealed by hanging vines and rock formations. He set down his pack, allowing the creature to catch its breath. Inside the cavern, they found remnants of alien technology, abandoned tools, strange devices, and a partially functioning terminal. Ethan's curiosity was piqued. He had seen advanced alien tech before, but this seemed different. The terminal flickered to life as he approached, displaying symbols and data he could barely comprehend. The creature leaned over, eyes wide, touching the glowing screen. To Ethan's shock, it seemed to understand. It pointed at symbols, then at him, as if asking for clarification. Ethan explained as best as he could, and the creature absorbed the information with astonishing speed. "They made you for this," Ethan whispered, realization dawning. "You were an experiment. They wanted to create something powerful, something they could control." The creature's eyes widened, comprehension flashing across its face. It touched its chest, then Ethan, repeating the word, "Control?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, but they failed. You survived. And now you're free with me." The creature's expression shifted from confusion to understanding, then determination. It had survived unimaginable pain, learned quickly, and now it was ready to act. Ethan smiled faintly, pride swelling in his chest. "We're a team now. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The creature nodded, a silent promise. The alien scouts were not far behind. Their movement echoed faintly through the canyon, and Ethan knew they would not give up. He and the creature prepared for confrontation. Ethan armed himself with a small energy rifle while the creature observed, learning the mechanics of the weapon quickly. It had intelligence, strength, and now the beginnings of strategy. Together, they were a formidable pair. The scouts appeared at the cavern entrance, scanning. Ethan stepped forward, keeping low, and fired a warning shot. Sparks erupted, startling the aliens. The creature mirrored his actions, using the environment to its advantage, moving silently and striking precise points that disrupted the scouts' balance. Ethan watched in awe as the creature adapted, anticipating movements and reacting with near-human intelligence and skill. The battle was tense but brief. Ethan and the creature worked in tandem, using strategy and ingenuity to outsmart the alien scouts. Rocks tumbled, shadows were used for cover, and energy blasts were redirected to create distractions. One by one, the scouts retreated, their pursuit halted not by brute force but by careful planning and human ingenuity. Ethan realized with a surge of pride that the creature had not just survived, it had become something extraordinary through its connection with him. As the last scout disappeared into the canyon, Ethan exhaled deeply. The creature turned to him, eyes glowing, and spoke clearly for the first time. "We, safe." Ethan smiled, nodding. "For now, but we have to keep moving. They'll come back and there may be more of them." The creature nodded, understanding, ready to face whatever lay ahead. In the quiet that followed, Ethan and the creature explored the cavern. He found supplies, food, and water that would sustain them for days. The creature moved with confidence, touching and examining everything, learning at a pace that amazed him. Its understanding of language, strategy, and survival had grown exponentially, and it looked at him with a trust and respect that was almost human. By evening, they sat at the edge of the cavern, looking out at the alien landscape. The sun set, painting the sky with colors Ethan had never seen on Earth, deep purples, fiery oranges, and shimmering blues that danced across the horizon. The creature sat beside him, its head leaning slightly toward his shoulder. Ethan felt a rare peace. They had survived, learned, and grown together. The bond between them was more than survival. It was connection, trust, and the beginning of a shared journey. "I don't know what you are or where you came from," Ethan said softly. "But I know this: you're incredible, strong, smart, and brave, and I'm glad you're here." The creature looked at him, eyes bright, and repeated slowly, almost reverently, "Here with Ethan." Night fell over the valley, and for the first time since the fire, Ethan allowed himself to rest fully. The creature curled beside him, protective yet gentle. It had survived, learned, and adapted. Together they had faced the alien scouts, navigated treacherous terrain, and forged a bond that transcended species. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. There were more challenges ahead, more dangers, but he also knew that they could face them, together. As the stars shimmered in the alien sky, Ethan whispered, "Tomorrow we keep moving, but tonight we rest." The creature, now almost fully human in form and understanding, nodded, its hand brushing his in silent agreement. In that moment, amid the alien wilderness, two unlikely companions found safety, trust, and the beginnings of a future built on connection, courage, and shared survival. And for Ethan, that was more than enough.